Hi, my name's Scott Campbell-Smith. I'm the Greens candidate in the coming federal election for the seat of Gippsland. And this is the Gippsland Lakes at Lakes Entrance, which is too precious to lose. It's 100 kilometres of interconnected lakes and channels, filled by freshwater flows from numerous rivers and creeks. And the whole system opens to the sea through this artificial channel. The Gippsland Lakes and the Black Brim are the backbone of the local tourist industry. Each year they attract tens of thousands of tourists to the region, many of whom come here to enjoy recreational fishing in the lakes. The tourist industry depends on a healthy lake system, and concern is mounting that government mismanagement of the Gippsland Lakes is leading to an ecological collapse. Two of the most important issues now are the controversial dredging of the lake's mouth, which makes Lakes Entrance a port to service the offshore oil and gas industry, and pressure from commercial fishing. Linton Barr has lived around the Gippsland Lakes for over 30 years. He's a keen fisherman and someone with a deep concern for the health and ecology of the lakes. Linton has written 2 books examining the threats facing the black brim, an important fish species in the lakes now suffering a collapse in stocks. And these days Linton Barr publishes the popular local fishing newsletter Around the Jetties, where he reports on issues that concern recreational fishermen.
Black brim numbers are the lowest in 30 years, and there is no sign of recovery on this iconic species of fish. So it's a big loss. The brim have declined, and anglers fishing for them have declined in numbers, pursuing them in our rivers. And this has been an ongoing thing. Part of the reason for this decline is the increasing salinity of the lakes with the opening of the mouth. The salt water coming in has changed the whole breeding pattern of black brim. Black brim used to breed all over the lake, and wherever seagrass was, you could expect to find black brim breeding in those areas. Today that's changed. What's happened is because of the salinity and the requirement of black brim that they need a salinity level probably between 11 parts per thousand and 18, they have to go up the rivers to get this. So instead of being right round the lakes, they're concentrated in the rivers. And they go up those rivers. It's where there's an interface between fresh water and the salt water. Now this has had a dramatic effect because the commercial fishermen are allowed to net within 400 metres of the mouth of the rivers, and they have no catch limits, so that they can catch the fish moving into the rivers to spawn and out of the rivers. But then it's aggravated at times of flood events, because in a flood event the black brim move out of the rivers very quickly, and this actually allows the commercial anglers or fishermen to take massive numbers of black brim. And above all, it's a concern for the community, because tourism depends on the fishing industry, not the commercial industry, but the recreational industry. And it brings millions into this area. The Gippsland Lakes are in a very special area in that they are open to population movement from Melbourne to come up for a weekend's fishing, and yet the fish population is at the lowest level for 30 years, and there's no sign of improvement.
Another threat to the Gippsland Lakes is the Victorian Government project to dredge and deepen the mouth of the lake system to allow Lakes Entrance to become the port for vessels supplying the Bass Strait gas platforms. The dredging of the mouth has increased the amount of salt water entering the lakes and led to an ecological collapse, ignored by government. Ross Scott is another local with a deep concern for the Gippsland Lakes. He's a retired civil engineer with a long career spent in the management of rivers and lakes. Ross has been monitoring the effect that the deepening of the lake's mouth has had on the lake's ecology.
I came down here in 1960, or my family did, and so I've been, the lake that you can see behind me has been my patch for the last 53 years on and off. In 2008, my neighbours and myself noticed a hell of an increase in salinity, surface water salinity. And then we started to notice dieback of the fringing vegetation, bivalve or mussel kill around the lakes, massive kill. We were invaded by, for the first time ever in the history of the lakes, a marine algal bloom called Synechococcus, which was quite thick, shaded out seagrass, killed it. At the same time, the bivalves died, and the sandworm died, so that was the food chain of the black brim, and a very important part of the food chain of the whole lake system. So I became more than worried and alert, and started to investigate what the heck was going on, and that's when I homed in on the deepening of the entrance at Lakes Entrance. In 2001, or thereabouts, the Shire of East Gippsland put in an application to the federal government for funding to investigate developing Lakes Entrance as a deep sea port. The ports employed consultants who said the lakes will be more saline as a result of the bigger hole. Not much notice was taken of that, because in 2008, March 2008, ports carried out a trial dredging, and the target depth was 3.5 metres, which is beyond anything that had been established permanently before. No one will acknowledge that the amount of salt water coming in per tide has changed. With that increased salinity came sharks and stingray and squid. We have about probably 6 species of shark in the lake right now. Stingrays have followed the invasive green European shore crab, which came in at the same time, and are now as far as the Latrobe River. It will eat anything. It eats shrimp and prawn and cracks the small shell, and will eat the seagrass. So you're getting rid of the food chain in the lakes. So the whole ecology of the lakes, in my opinion, is crashing. But what is really concerning to me is that nobody is monitoring. There's been no effort to audit what is going on in the Gippsland Lakes. And that's what we need right now. Like, people like me can carry on, but we need an audit of the ecological function. We need to do surveys of the European shore crab. We need to do a decent survey, an assessment of the brim stocks, and investigate what's happening to the sandworm and what's happening to the bivalve.
Some people say that the Greens value the environment at the expense of the economy, but this is an example of how environmental and economic issues are inseparable, and how a healthy environment means a sustainable economy, and that's what the Greens stand for.